Hey, IO Planner community. Sarah here, president of IO Planner, and we are super excited for today's AP Pro Live. Thank you guys for joining live for those of you who can make it. But if not, we always keep these in our help center. All of our previous webinars are always live and available for you. They're also on YouTube, and Kimberly will we will link that in the comment section later as well so that you can access them. But today we are going to be talking with a special guest, Jess Barkman. Jess is one of our business coaches that we recommend. She is a long-term AP user, planner, and also has extensive experience on the venue side in venue management. So we're really going to be talking about how to utilize systems today to work with your vendors, work with your teams, work with your planners better. So first and foremost, just want to give the floor to Jess to give a little bit of background on herself, introduce herself, and then we'll walk into it. And as we're going through this, guys, if anybody does have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments. We do have someone moderating the back room, and we will do our best to answer as we go and open it up for questions at the end as well. So Jess.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. A little bit about me and how I got to where I am today, because I think it's really important for you to understand where I'm coming from when I'm giving you all this information. I have been in the wedding industry now for close to 10 years, and there's absolutely no other industry for me at this point. It just has my heart. I got my start in the wedding industry at one of the busiest wedding venues in Colorado and quickly became their sales and marketing director. They did 400 events a year, and when I got hired on, they'd already been in business 26 years at that point. So crash course into the wedding industry, full bore. I got an experience like anything other within my just first few years in the industry. After that, I followed my heart to the mountains, where I helped start a couple of wedding venues before launching my own wedding planning business in the very fortunate year of 2020. It was a very interesting start to being a business owner. But after I did that, I would say I can do pretty much damn near anything.
Agreed.
And since then, my business has evolved into virtual wedding planning. I don't do any boots on the ground whatsoever anymore. I operate a micro wedding venue in Ouray, Colorado, and I'm a business coach. So I come to all of this with a very unique perspective because I see every different version of it, whether I'm working with a planner, a venue, a DJ, a florist. I know how everybody works together and all the different sides of the story and what makes each job difficult or work really well. And I'll tell you, the thing that makes every part of it work really well is one solid system. Hence, IO Planner, of course.
Love it.
So why this matters to me? Like I said, I come from this from different perspectives. The first being planner. The venue relationships that I have made in my career have absolutely made my career to this point. I would say that venues have done 90% of my marketing in my business. I have done almost zero paid advertising in my 10 years in business. That's worked really well for me because I believe in venue partnerships above all else. As a venue manager, of course, I see things from both sides, but I think it's just as important to have good systems in place and be able to work really well with planners as it is for planners to work with venues as well. And then as a business coach, like I said, I see this from even like a DJ's perspective as well. And some expectations I wanted to start right off the bat with. The biggest one is I am a mom first and foremost, which means I don't have time to beat around the bush whatsoever. You might not agree with everything I say, and that's totally okay. But I'm really raw, I'm really upfront, and you can ask me damn near anything in the comments or in my email, and I will give you a real response in return. Again, it might not be what you want to hear, but it'll be straight up. And then also, if you are coming into this thinking, maybe I don't need Maybe this is below where I'm at in my career. I don't have time. Whatever it may be, those are the thoughts that are holding you back in your business. And I would really challenge you to shake those before we jump into this learning experience and really assess why those are coming up for you, because they're not there to help you. They are there to limit you from getting to the next step in your business. So from this chat today, I really want you to take what works and leave what doesn't. Not all of this is going to apply to you. You know, I am from Colorado. Sometimes things on the East Coast aren't quite the same, things like that. I get it. If you only take one thing from today, please write this down. The planners who are booked out and consistently referred are not the most creative. They're not necessarily the best planners. They're not necessarily the ones that you're seeing in magazines. They are the easiest for venues to work with. The easiest for venues to work with. Just today, I chose to work with a planner who is a less experienced planner, charging more than another planner because she's easier to work with than somebody who I used to refer all the time, who is gotten complacent and is kind of hard to work with on a regular basis. That is the proof right there. Be easy to work with. Like I said before, I personally think, and I know this might ruffle some feathers, that venues can be your absolute best advertisers. They're one of the very few people who are talking to couples before you do in most situations. They recommend planners daily. They can also take a recommendation away. Maybe they were going to go with one planner and then they talk to the venue and they're like, you know what? I think so-and-so is a better fit for you. They have that power, and you would never even know that you may have had that opportunity on the back end. They can make or break your reputation, and if they trust you, you will win every single time, and I promise you, your job will be easier overall. Sarah, are you with me? Any questions so far?
No, completely agree with you. And, you know, as just mentioned a little bit earlier, you know, we're talking about the planner vendor or venue planner vendor relationship, but remember this goes for everybody. You know, vendors refer vendors, planners refer vendors refer other vendors. So it's be consistent in how you show up. Be the person that they know is going to show up and make them look good. Many of you have probably talked or heard this in the past, but with venues specifically, the guests who are showing up and arriving, they see the venue, and that is who they associate everybody who is working in that venue with. If that venue feels like you are not going to show up and be the best and work with them and be accountable, you're not getting the job.
I couldn't agree more. I would say then for this slide, replace the word venue with vendor. If a vendor trusts you. And like you said, the same across the board, whether it's a florist, a hairstylist, planner, venue, all of it. If they trust you, they're going to advocate for you. They're going to be more flexible, especially on those setup times, which we'll get to in a second. The number of you who mentioned setup times, not being flexible, things like that was astounding. They communicate better, and they will make you look good when you are not even in the room. They're your biggest advocates. And this is beyond just advertising for you from the get-go. You know, if your planner or venue is advocating for you in the background, if you make a mistake, they are that much more likely to be able to help cover it up, fix it for you, alleviate that situation before the client even knows. We are all humans, and I guarantee every single one of you can think of one of those situations right now where if you didn't have that advocate, you didn't have that team member, it wouldn't have worked out the same way that it did. And I personally think that as planners, that's half of your job, is having those connections, having those relationships so that people have your back when it really counts. So like I said, there were quite a few people in the questionnaire who had some complaints These are those complaints. Um, I did find it really interesting that when asked what questions you had for me, a lot of people use that opportunity to bring up problems that they had with venues rather than questions they had and ways that they themselves could fix that. Which I would say that there's probably some deep dive maybe that should be done there. You know, if the first thing you think instead of a question and how do I fix that, there isn't those things, it should be, you know, that's part of your job. Some of those complaints were venues don't respect planners. There's no flexibility with design, restrictions around setup and strike hours, their lack of communication, lack of responsiveness. There was a multitude of different versions of this exact same thing, but none of them were phrased as questions or how do I fix that? And those are parts of the things that we're going to talk about today. The system that you have that you pay for, an aisle planner, will help do this for you. And it alleviates some of these problems from the venue side or from other vendors themselves. You should be fixing a lot of those problems before they're a problem or a frustration for you, because that's your job. So taking away some of those complaints here, onward and upward. If a venue trusts you, they do all these things for you. If they don't, your job is going to get harder. There's going to be more restrictions, more questions, more checks and balances to make sure that everything is taken care of. I'm sure that you have all worked with a venue before who trusts you so much. They'll give you the keys. You've got the keys to the castle. You can do whatever you want. There's very few rules because they trust you. You didn't earn that day one. That's something that came with time. If that's not a relationship you have, hopefully by the end of this, you have the steps that you need to create those relationships with venues and other vendors. Why the planner venue relationships frequently break down. I will tell you that more often than not, this is not intentional. It's honestly not even a big mistake or anything like that. It's many system issues over time, and it leads to frustration. Some of those things can be too many cooks in the kitchen. We all know when there's too many people trying to control the situation, nothing is really getting done. Miscommunications, of course, bypassing procedures and processes, duplicated work. We all know when that happens with a venue who is trying to keep control, and a lack of clarity. Also, just kind of repeated information, I would say, should be added to this list. When a couple is reaching out to a planner or a venue again and again and again for the same questions, they should be getting them from someplace on your side, again, in one of these systems that we're creating. Sarah, anything for me?
Nope, love it.
Okay. So what do venues actually want to see from planners? Let's rephrase this though. What do we all actually want to see from planners? Now, what do we all actually want? What are we all looking for here? I'll tell you, in the events industry, it's clear communication, less stress, and a smooth and successful event where two people get married at the end of the day, right? That's what we all want. But ultimately, everybody in the world, not just the wedding industry, they just want to be happy. Simple, happy, make my life easier, right? If your life is easier, you get through your 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and you can go home, hang out with your family, kick off your shoes and relax. That's the dream life. That's what everybody wants. So in order to make your couples, your vendors, your planners, your venues, etc., happier, how are we going to get to that? I'd say the first thing you need to do is start asking more questions. Ask them what they want. And ask them, the number one question I would recommend is, how can I make your life easier? This single question has done more for me in my business than anything else. I ask this question of every single vendor I work with, whether it's a DJ, a bartender, a planner, different venues I've worked with in the past. How can I make your life easier? Because not only does it set me up to be their number one referred planner or venue, It also solidifies that communication, and people are a lot more likely to just be open with you from the get-go. By asking this question really upfront, you're breaking down an initial wall, and people will really spill the information to you. Maybe sometimes it's, an easier way to communicate with me would actually be via text message. If you could stop doing this, it would be really helpful. Or, you know what, I really need somebody to cover me for this small portion of the event so that I can be going and doing this. Somebody answering those questions honestly, rather than sometimes in fear of what you might respond with or what you might think, will get you a lot farther and give you a more successful event, which of course is more successful in the eyes of your clients as well. I really encourage you to start adding this to your emails before a wedding and after a wedding as well. And do it to everybody that you can, everybody that you talk to. And day of, if you have a few extra minutes to ask somebody this, how can I make your life easier today? I guarantee you will be astounded with the results that come from it, and you will become the number one referred planner or venue from a lot of different people in the process here. I'm already getting winded. So from the venue perspective of things, and I see this all the time, and it does lead to frustration, even though as an experienced planner, I know how it is to be a planner. It's still hard not to get frustrated with these elements. I have planners on a consistent basis overcomplicating things. It can be a really laid back client, and the planner is bringing in all of these complications, all of these unnecessary tidbits, questions, sometimes unnecessary meetings that are just adding to the stress of it all. Don't create unnecessary friction. If a problem doesn't need to be hashed out, fix it on the back end. You don't need to bring it up. Sometimes you can just fix things without anything needing to come of it. Of course, not creating any more work. Nobody needs more of that. And overall, don't jeopardize the client relationship that any vendor has with their client. I would say this is the number one way to wreck a vendor relationship or a venue relationship, is to get in the middle of that relationship with a client. That's what people work so hard to create. That's their sales process. It's their marketing. It's everything they do. And once they've built up that relationship and have that trust that we're talking about here, if something gets in the way of that, it is the biggest threat to a business. And it leads to a lot of uncomfortable conversations or lack thereof, and just a lack of referral in the future. All right. And the big thing to kind of note here from the venue side is, I would say that most venues aren't actually looking for additional control. From a lot of the responses in the questionnaire, it seems like that is what planners think venues want, is they're wanting too much control, and yet they don't follow through with it, or they don't have all of the rules and procedures in place. Venues don't actually want that, because more control means more work. They want a planner to be in control and to have the reins fully. All they want is clarity and clear communication. Again, all of this can be solved with this system that you pay for. And if you don't already pay for it, email me afterwards and I will talk you into paying for it. It is so worth it. This system does everything for you to create that clarity. And it makes it easy for you having clarity with both your client, your venue, your vendors, all across the board. Use the systems that are here to help you. And when you do that, you become, of course, a venue's number one go-to planner, which of course means more money. Yes, we want more clients, more fluffy feelings, more I do's. Ultimately, we're all in this for money. So if you're wanting all of that to happen, you're wanting these results, you need to build the trust, and you need to do that by building the clarity with these venues. So here's how we're going to do that. Number one is creating assets, not just layouts. I have looked through a lot of different planners, layouts, and I would say it's one of the most underutilized features I see in my coaching clients. You can make a layout with a rectangle and throw some tables and chairs in it. And that serves its basic needs. That'll get you through your client and they will be wowed. If you go just a step beyond that and create a layout that has the bathrooms, the extension cords, electrical outlets, trash cans, a layout that is going to work for you in the future, you're going to get a hell of a lot farther with a venue because they see that as well. They aren't then answering the same questions over and over to these clients, to the DJ, to the lighting and design crew. All of that stuff is in the layout for them already. I say this again and again. It's super important. Aisle Planner will give you what you put in. The more you put into this software, the more you will get out of it. If you build out the layouts, as soon as we get off this call, build out 3 layouts for your top 3 venues and build them out to a T and then send them to them. Show them and say, is there anything else that you would like included? Also, do you have a copy of this that you can give to prospective tours to show them what 50, 75, 100, 150 guests looks like within this space? If not, let me send you a PDF with that. And it's going to have your logo at the top, which is just another plug for your business over somebody else's. Plus, you just became a tool and an asset for this venue who didn't have something like that before. Put in the work to create these things before you're in the heat of season and you don't have time to think about where the electrical outlets are and things like that, which means you're then going to ask the venue those questions for the 100th time in a row. They don't want to be answering those questions anymore. Sarah, you're nodding. I like it.
So much so. I think that, there's such a sales opportunity there. And if you're a planner and you're trying to get into a venue, let them know I have this system. You may already have a layout that comes from your blueprints or something like that. That's great. Let's use that. Let's optimize it. Putting, as just mentioned, putting all those little teeny details that really do make a difference, right? Outdoor venues, there may be only one location in that entire venue area where you can put a generator or you have enough power to put a DJ. Don't go into it and put the DJ on the other side of the room and have to go through and trying to flip a space day of because you didn't realize those. So schedule those meetings. Say, hey, let's have a meeting. Let's really go through. Let's build this out to a T, and then save those as templates. Like just mentioned, you can save as many templates as you want. So save one venue and save 5 different layout, and then you just have to make minor manipulations to it. But you basically know if it's a 75-person event with a dance floor in the middle and a stage, this is how it needs to be laid out. And it can really save you time and give the clients want the 2D. They want the specifics. They want something to scale. The 3D and 4D options that are out on the market now are really amazing for working with the end consumer, to give them that wow factor of what their event's going to look like. But you can't give that to a vendor. You can't give that to a venue. They don't care what color the tablecloth is. They want to know where that table goes, and they want to know it to scale, and they want to know when they set up the room, it's going to work.
Yes. And side note on this, it took me a long time to learn this. It seems really simple, but when you make these venue templates, off to the side, have the list of inclusions right there on your layout. So you're not even flipping screens. You're not referring back to their website or contract, and say they have 8 60-inch rounds, 5 cocktail tables, whatever it may be. And then you can just drag and drop those specific tables directly into your layouts. I just saved you so much time. I can't believe how long it took me to learn that, but go do it as soon as we get off this. It's one of the easiest steps that you can possibly do to really utilize your AP better. On that same note, I would really suggest go in and build some timeline templates for these same 3 venues. If you're working for the same 3 venues on a consistent basis, or you want to be working for the same venues on a consistent basis, build out a timeline that is detailed to their specific space. I work at a ranch venue that I know all of the guests are going to be checking in Friday at 4 p.m. They'll be checking out Sunday at 11. I know that the caterer has a really long checklist that they need to do to get out of there on a Saturday night. All of those things are in their timeline built into that template. So I'm not copying and pasting, reinventing the wheel every single time I work with that venue. I also have highlighted and blank line sections for all the things that I know I need to submit to that venue. Okay, they include plates, glassware, flatware. What color flatware are they going to have? All of those things are a blank line that is added into the timeline. I use my timeline as almost a to-do list. It is like my master information houser for literally everything, because it is the one thing day of you are going to have with you no matter what. If you lose that clipboard, we all know we scramble for it because it is every single answer we need. It should be down to the T of like colored napkin. Every single detail is in that timeline from here on out. Template this, template everything. But this is an easy one too. There's a lot of annoyance, it sounds like, with venues going back and forth on what timelines included, what setup or tear down time. Have them approve this templated timeline for you when you first make it. And then before you even send it to your client, have them approve it again so that day of, none of the scramble is coming or frustration of they go back and forth on all their rules. You get them to approve this multiple times via email and you're set. They can't go back on anything. And then number 3 is treat your system, and I'm referring to the contacts pages in Aisle Planner, like a database. The more you put into the software, the more you're going to get out of it. I really recommend using the contacts pages as basically your FAQ section for every single vendor. And once you've built it once, you've worked with a venue or a vendor one time, you should have all the answers you need. How do these people get paid? What's their dog policy? Are they a vegan? That would be an important thing to go into here. The more you put into this, the easier your life will be in the future. And also, the less your clients are going to go to the venues with these same questions over and over again. When they're going to the venue and asking, are you dog friendly or can we have sparklers? And this is the 5th time they've been asked that week. They are not annoyed with the client. They're annoyed with the planner because they kind of feel like this is some of your job to do. And why isn't your client going to you with these questions? If you have all the answers for them, they're never going to the venue, which also eliminates the opportunity for miscommunications to happen or conversations to happen without you, where you're completely in the dark until day of when it really shows. Those are the kinds of things that you are going to fix by creating these systems and building these templates in advance. Questions so far?
Any questions from those who are viewing it live? Any questions, thoughts, best tricks that you've got? Feel free to put them in the comments as we keep going.
Cool. I'd say bottom line here is store all of that information so that your clients become the easy clients. You become the easy planner. You become the easy venue, vendors, whoever in the future, because you're answering all of these things before they even come up and become potential issues. And then, like I said, working ahead of the venue. A lot of people ask questions about the checklist. I'm going to be 100% honest. And I feel like Sarah is not going to like this, but I am not a checklist user in Aisle Planner. It's never been my jam. It overwhelms me. But for people who do love it, I really think it could be a useful tool if you are assigning tasks that are specific to each client. If you go in and say, okay, by this date, you have to have your seating chart to this venue. You need to have assigned rooms if this is a ranch venue, etc. All of those things go into the checklist and are assigned a due date. And I would really recommend set that due date a week before it's due to the venue, because then you have a week buffer time because your client never gets things done in time where you can bug them about it, get those answers, and still be ahead of the curve. Again, you are becoming the planner who is ahead of the game. You're becoming of the planner who has the answers in advance and the recommended planner every single time when you're utilizing these tools. I promise someday, Sarah, I will use it better. Probably not.
It is. I think it's probably, when I'm talking about Aisle Planner, I think it's the most time intensive piece of the platform, because it truly is taking everything you do as a planner, as a caterer, as a vendor, a venue, as a florist, taking everything you do and doing a brain dump, right? It is, I call it your brain on Aisle Planner. It is, and that is, it's a lot. It's an overwhelming task to take a part of. Even if you don't use it as a whole, if you can use it for some of just your client-based things, I think it's really valuable. Even if you just build the checklist as a client checklist, so that they've got those tasks. If you're inviting them into the client portal, as Jess said, it's a way to keep them on top of it. It's also, I will say, it's your number one time saver, because it keeps the back and forth of, what do I need to do? What's next? Where are we? Is there anything I can help with? It keeps all of those to a minimum. But then it makes sure that you are getting, that nothing falls through the cracks, that you're getting everything that you need to send out to your vendor team, including your venues, on time, ahead of time. Go with the adage of, on time is already 15 minutes late, right? Like, if we're sending it the day they absolutely positively must have it, that means that they're hopefully creating a little bit of a buffer on their end too, but like, you're now putting them to the wire. So if you can get it over to them a little bit earlier, it just gives them extra time to really make sure that they're able to focus on your event, and they want to work on your event versus the other ones that are coming in. Your event takes priority.
Yes, I do agree with that. We all also have had those clients where you just cannot get them to do their homework, even if it's just like a simple get back to me on this. I have used checklist in that sense, so that it's automatically reminding them of things, and I don't feel like I need to be the person who's in their inbox bugging them all the time. That is a really useful part of those checklists. Again, though, AP is really what you put in is what you get out. So, if that's something that's really helpful for you, make the same templates you would for these venues as far as layouts and timelines. Do the same thing for checklist. If that works for you, pour into this stuff. Okay. Oops. Skipped over this one. And then one of the biggest things that I really tell people, you're going to put in all of this work to this software. We are paying a lot of money for this. We keep talking about it. You have put in the efforts to build these systems. Use them. But it doesn't do you any good if you're using them alone. If your clients aren't using these softwares and accessing this information, seeing all of the work that you're putting into this, they really have no idea everything you're doing on the other side. So one of the first things that you need to do is, after you've built these systems that are specific to their wedding, you've built their layout, you've built their timelines, of course, release it to them, but do an onboarding with them. Get on a phone call and walk them through tab by tab. And I really recommend doing it tab by tab, and show them these are all of the ways that you can utilize this software. This is where you can find all of your payment due dates. Oh, you want your mom to see that? Let's invite your mom right now. You want to see your layout? Great. Come in here. Just don't touch anything, please. Timeline as well. Like, if you want to know what time the shuttle is going to be there because you've forgotten, or you're triple checking everything on your wedding website once more time, like, here is where you can access all of that information. By teaching your clients how to use this, you are going to save yourself email after email every single week, where they could be answering these questions themselves. It's not that we don't want to be interacting and building that relationship with our clients, but answering these simple questions isn't the relationship building time that you really want. It's a waste of time, because you've already paid for this thing that will do this for you. So you could be utilizing that time to do something much more valuable. I promise I will come back to that comment. And then, kind of to summarize this here, your software isn't just for you or your client. It's for the entire team. If you are a planner, this is, of course, for your venue as well as your DJ, your client's mom, whoever else. If you are a venue, you need to be sharing this just the same way a planner would. Share these tools, give the planner access to these tools. Give your DJ access to the timeline earlier. You have the system, connect these people, answer the questions with this really amazing software that you're already paying for. And when your systems are strong, when you've poured all of this time and attention into building out this software to be customized to you and your business, you stop just being another vendor and become the planner or venue that every other vendor wants to refer and work with again and again. These systems become what you are known for. You become the venue, vendor, planner that is known for being the most on top of it, the most ahead of the game, the most team oriented, because you're asking the question of, how do I make your life easier? All of these things work together to create a business that is all about that team energy, which for most of you, which are planners out there, that's what you do. You hold this entire event, this team together. You are the foundation of everything. To be that, you need the systems in place to make it all work. I am beating a dead horse now. So what questions do you all have for me? Caitlin, I'd like to start with you. Good for you using the checklist. Go you. Maybe you could teach me a thing or two. I wish it worked for me, but the other elements of AP are all of that and more for me. So what other questions do we have? Anyone? Sarah?
I know, I'm trying to think. That was so amazing and such a great, really, just down to earth way to communicate the value of the communication system that you've got with your vendors, and that includes more than just being their buddy and bringing them cookies and all great and fine, but like if you aren't showing up when it counts, doesn't even matter, right? Is there, from a vendor perspective, if planners are going out and trying to get themselves onto a vendor list? I think that that's a really important one. A lot of planners use that as kind of a way to break into a new market or break in when they're starting a new business or rebranding. Are there any recommendations outside of showing I have these systems and we're going to be able to work really, really well together? And but is there anything that you recommend when you are trying to get a new venue specifically, because I feel like that's like it's a holy grail. It's a lead magnet that just creates profit for you. What would you recommend planners do to get them, and other vendors as well, get them do to get themselves most likely to get added to a venue list?
I would say from the planner side of things, think about how you're approached on a regular basis. We all get those emails every single week that are definitely written by ChatGPT. I mean, first of all, don't do that. We all know that. Even if you as a planner are reaching out to a venue like that, it's not any different. Make sure that you are reaching out in an authentic way. That person's name is the biggest thing. And try and get off of the screen. Try and get in person with them. Maybe it's coming to a vendor event. Maybe it's just popping by somebody's office with coffee, and not a coffee with I'd like to sit down with you right now, but here's a coffee whenever you have some time in the next few weeks. I know you're really busy, but let's get together, or at least pop on a phone call. I would love to chat with you whenever you have some good time. Those person-to-person connections are where you're going to build the best vendor relationships. Outside of that, like I said, just ask them the real question of, how can I make your life easier? Is there anything really missing from your vendors list that you're looking for? Can I refer some vendors that are missing from that list? Is there anything missing from the planners you work with? Let them answer those questions for you. Most people will, People like to talk about themselves. They like to talk about their businesses. Give them the floor to give you the answers you need.
I love it. I love it. And it looks like we had some tips and tricks from the comments as well. But yeah, I think that, it's building the relationship, and then showing that you've got the systems to not only to put the process behind the words, right? Like saying that I'm going to be a great partner, but actually I think showing up, showing them what you can do, having a little presentation of like, this is how we're going to work. This is how I work with my clients. And this is what I'm going to be able to present to you. That's massive. All right. Any other questions, guys? Yes, Jess.
I was going to mention too, nobody likes to just be kind of like cold called. So beyond not emailing them and just saying, how do I get on your preferred vendors list? Follow them on Instagram, like their content, comment on their content, be interacting, be these people's biggest fan. If they have a venue sales manager, that's the person that you should be trying to get in with. Where does that person go out for drinks on a Friday? Like, find yourself at the bar with that person. Get in the room. It is the biggest business decision that you can ever make. Sorry, just kind of going off on that.
Love it. Love it. I think you already really said it, as a venue, like what stands out. And I think that's it, right? Like no one wants to be stalked. No one wants to there's so many people coming at you every single day. And on top of that, most venues are managing 20, 30 events at a time, right? If not more, but like what's actually happening within the next 30, 60, 90 days. Like they're busy. They can work every single day of the week if they wanted to. And so being cognizant of that as well, I think, like treating them like you understand what they're coming through. All right, we've got can you elaborate on the systems like a database?
Oh, yes. So this is contacts in particular. And I would say anytime you're going to work with a new vendor, add them in to your contacts immediately, anytime. Eventually, if you decide to sell your business, what you are selling is this database of contacts more than anything else. But also, you can't possibly remember all of these people. You also can't remember every single interaction that you've had with them, every rule that they've brought up, every quick conversation about where they said, oh, I'm not really a dog person, or I don't like working in this one specific area, or I've been dreaming to work at this venue. House all of that information in their contact like a database. It should have all of their billing information. It should have their contact information. If there are different people working for a venue or a vendor, maybe there's one person who only works for them on the weekends. Every single contact you ever have should be housed in here because you never know when you're going to need to contact one of these people. Treat it also like an FAQ section. If you have received the same question from a client or another vendor about this venue or vendor, you should have it in the contact as an FAQ so that you can refer back to it, you can copy and paste it, and also your client can see that. If you're working with blah, blah, blah photographer and there's an FAQ section of, when does she usually meet with her clients? If all of that is in her contact, your client has that question answered for them right there. Does that make sense, Peter? He says, yes, I bet.
Yeah. And that's where, we have, kind of one sheets of, recommended vendors and that type of thing. But what Jess is saying is when you build it out in your master contacts, when you put that information, those notes that are client facing in there, and you can drop, URLs in there for like link outs and that kind of thing. But that is a place where you're sharing, you are basically giving them a robust amount of information versus them having to go and find and figure it out on their own. it's a way to keep all of that information. And then it's a really good place for you to keep those private comments too, right? So you put those private notes around that vendor. If it's a vendor that you're trying to break into, or a vendor you like to work with, like, what is their favorite coffee? What's their birthday? Like, what are those things that you want to remember, so that you can create those little personal touches with them as well.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. This is also something that it's one and done. Once you've created it, it's in there. So why not create it?
Yeah.
This is just a tool for you to be able to utilize later. And yes, Lisa, I agree with you. AP team, it would be wonderful if you could just auto import contacts into the whole contact system.
Oh, you can, yeah, you can do like an Excel upload. It's a little temperamental to go into master contacts. There's some opportunity, and we know it. There's a long list of things that we want to do within the system. A contacts overhaul is definitely you know, it's there. It's just in list of priorities, but absolutely. But there are definitely ways in its state right now to make sure that it's really working for you and valuable, and can be a really good resource for both you as well as your team and your customers and your clients.
I did just get another question of, when they, assuming venues, don't prep us with all the various rules and regulations they have, but then enforce those things on wedding day, which affects how we do our jobs. Great question. I would say part of your job is ensuring that you have the communication and systems in place ahead of time so that that's not possible. And I know that we touched on this several times in different ways throughout the chat, but in creating the timeline that you then get approved by the venue when you create the template and when you create it for the individual client, you have the venue respond back to you saying, this all looks great, especially highlighted sections. When you're sending it to the venue, make sure that only the highlighted sections that apply to them are what's showing, and everything else is either not visible or grayed out, so they're only seeing the important stuff. And have them approve this. Have them approve the layout, and make sure that your timeline is detailed enough that none of these rules could potentially slip through the cracks. Yes, things happen, and lack of professionalism is always astounding, but I do think that there's room to improve on the system side ahead of time so that there's less of that in the future. I know in the past I have seen where I have left things open-ended, and it did result in venues being able to change the rules willy-nilly to their advantage. And it's because I didn't have those systems in place and approval processes beforehand.
Love it. All right. Any last minute questions before we kind of close this guy out? Well, Jess, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, taking the time out of your schedule. It is always such a pleasure to have you join us for things and represent IL Planner. If anybody has any questions, you can see Jess's information right there on the screen. So feel free to follow her on Instagram. Please follow her on Instagram. And reach out with any additional information. As Kimberly mentioned, we are going to be, this will be emailed out to everybody who is registered. It will also be added to our webinar list in the help article for future reference back as well. But Jess, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for all of your amazing insights. We truly appreciate it. I think that this was phenomenal, and looks like everybody got a lot out of it. So thank you so much for that. Anything you want to add just as we close out?
No, thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email me. Also, this was a very, very broad coverage of these topics. If you want to dive in further, send me some questions and maybe there will be a follow-up or something like that to come. I hope everybody has a great week. And thank you so much, Sarah, Kimberly, and the whole AP team for everything you do. We love you.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Jazz. Thank you for being such a amazing advocate and friend of the company. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining us live today. For all of you that are watching this later, thank you for taking the time. Please don't hesitate to reach out to the team if you have any questions.
Bye.
Have a great day, everyone.